Okay, we're nearing the end here of the Tempest. Act 4 is a pretty short act. There's only one scene, and um, and I think it's a little bit of an abrupt transition because then in the beginning here with sort of no explanation as to what changed his mind, Prospero sort of announces to Ferdinand and Miranda that their courting period in which Ferdinand has been sort of the slave of Prospero, proving himself. Prospero says, "Your compensation makes amends, for I have given you here a third of mine own life, or that for which I live. For once again I tender to thy hand. All thy vexations were but my trials of thy love, and thou hast strangely stood the test here. Afore heaven, I ratify this my rich gift." Um, he's saying he's going to give his daughter to Ferdinand, and that he's proven good through his work and his trials. And but they're not married yet, and Prospero warns not to break her virgin knot until the ceremonies are complete and everything's official. Um, so I think this is kind of a big moment probably for Prospero, who has raised Miranda on his own for so many years, and he knows that this is the beginning of the end of her innocence and her launching out into adulthood. And so Prospero's not fighting that natural process. He did try to control it somewhat, but we do see him letting go a little bit. Prospero, multitasking as usual, sends Ariel away to go check on the various parties that are about the island, and meanwhile, Prospero says, "I must bestow upon the eyes of this young couple some vanity of mine art. It is my promise, and they expect it from me." Presently, I with a twink. Before you can say come and go, and breathe twice and cry so, so, each one tipping on his toe, will be here with mop and mow. Do you love me, master? No? Dearly, my delicate Ariel, do not approach till thou dost hear me call. Well, I conceive. So Prospero is going to put on this special little show using his magic for Ferdinand and Miranda. And what this is called or referred to, and it would have been known back in the day amongst this audience, is it's called a masque, Masque. All right, so this is from Dictionary of Literary and Thematic Terms found in the Facts on File database. I can share this page with you, but it defines what a masque was. Playwrights were commissioned to write masques for the royal court to mark ceremonial occasions such as the visit of a foreign dignitary or the wedding of a member of the court, etc., etc. The structure of the masque centered on dancing of a group of elaborately costumed members of the aristocracy whose movements, interspersed with poetry and song, enacted the plot. Um, so the performers would then be banished by a verse announcing the arrival of the masque. Okay. This tells you a little bit about the ceremonial quality of this. It's essentially a play with poetry and music and costume, very elaborate and showy, and something that was part of the nobles and their courtly practices. And so it would have been something that the people in Shakespeare's day knew about, and if they were of the upper classes, they may have participated in or seen this. So Prospero's masque for Ferdinand and Miranda is quite special, and it involves some Greek deities that I'm going to explain to you in a moment here. Iris is refers to this deity of the rainbow, also the messenger of the gods, and she is announcing. Okay, there's this soft music going along with this. She is announcing Ceres, who is the goddess of grain, agriculture. The word cereal comes from Ceres, and her corresponding goddess in Greek mythology. These are the Roman names, by the way, Ceres, Iris, but the Greek counterpart would be Demeter. Um, so she announces presence of Ceres, um, and Ceres nods to Iris, the many-colored messenger that never disobey, the wife of Jupiter, who with thy saffron wings upon my flowers diffusest honey drops, refreshing showers, and with each end of thy blue bow dost crown my bosky acres and my unshrubbed down, rich scarf to my proud earth. Why hath thy queen summoned me hither to this short-grassed green? And Iris says, a contract of true love to celebrate, and some donation freely to estate on the blessed lovers. Now, it's important to note that the deities present here are not who you might expect, like Venus, the goddess of love, Cupid, um, and we know a little bit about what John Donne referred to as sublunary love, passions and lusts and whatnot. And by bringing in Ceres, the goddess of agriculture, and Ceres then talks about Iris and how Iris would not disobey Jupiter's wife, Hera, the goddess of the household. Um, what we see here is sort of a deprivileging of the erotic, lustful aspects of love and the emphasis on the nourishing, cyclical, redemptive, transformative powers of nature. And Ceres represents that. Ceres is that ability to bring life back into um, the dead earth, symbolized by the cycle of the seasons. And also, you might know about the story of the abduction of Ceres or Demeter's daughter, and how that led to, what we know as the winter months. And that, in fact, it was the lust of Pluto or Hades that led to the abduction of her daughter. So what we have here then is this development of a motif of the natural cycles of the world, and Ceres' part in producing those cycles, particularly the one that generates life out of death. So it's not too hard a stretch to see how the power of Ceres and the power of transformation play out here and connect to the plot in The Tempest, which is ultimately one of transformation, reordering, um, and here in this case, that's happening through the love of Miranda and Ferdinand. Because if you think about it, if it wasn't for Ferdinand, Prospero might not be able to play his game so well and to checkmate, if you will, and Alonso and Antonio the way that he's about to in Act 5. So it's by bringing together his daughter and Ferdinand that he is able to enact his revenge and also maybe heal some relationships that were so damaged in the past. But we'll see how that plays out a little bit later. So that bit I mentioned about the absence of Venus um, is reiterated here. Tell me, heavenly bow, if Venus or her son, as thou dost know, do now attend the queen, since they did plot the means that dusky Dis, Hades, or Pluto, is also known as Dis, my daughter got. Her and her blind boys' scandaled company I have forsworn. Of her society be not afraid. I met her deity cutting the clouds towards Paphos, and her son dove-drawn with her. Here thought they to have done some wanton charm upon this man and maid, whose vows are that no bed right shall be paid, till Hymen's torch be lighted, but vain. Mars's hot minion is returned again. Her wappish-headed son has broke his arrows, swears he will shoot no more, but play with sparrows, and be a boy right out. So essentially, Iris is relaying the information that Venus and Cupid, we know about their history and how their lustful um, contagions can sort of get in the way of things, and that they've been set aside. They are not going to bother us. I've made sure of that. Okay, that's all contained here in this little exchange. And then comes Juno, who, or known also as Hera, but Juno is the queen of Zeus, and the wife of Zeus, queen of the gods, and also the goddess of the hearth, the goddess of family, the goddess of stability. All of these things too are important, I think, for a young couple such as Ferdinand and Miranda to think about the long-term implications of their union, and that it's not just, you know, going to be all fun and honeymoon and roses, etc., but that there's a long-term component to their union, and moreover, that's probably the most natural part of that is that nature supports long-term unions, and that's the message that we get here in the Mask, with the choice of these particular goddesses, Iris, Ceres, and Juno. Again, to reiterate, Ceres, the goddess of fertility, Juno, the goddess of the hearth and of monogamy, which is kind of funny because if you know Juno and Zeus, or Juno and Jupiter, that Zeus/Jupiter was always philandering um, and gallivanting around doing whatever he wanted to the consternation of his wife Juno. But she still adheres to the principles. Okay, so they also bring in the magical creatures known as the naiads. They're a special kind of wood nymph. Um, and they start to show up in there with all of this rich imagery of the harvest, um, straw hats. They're coming up from the furrows of farmlands. And these fresh nymphs encounter everyone in country footing. Um, and then the reapers in their costumes join with the nymphs, and there's this great dance. Again, it's a celebration of fertility, of transformation, all of this wonderful poetic imagery in celebration of this marriage. But Prospero, aside, says, "Oh, I forgot about Caliban and that conspiracy. I better attend to that." And then he shuts down the whole thing. And Ferdinand notices, "Wow, Prospero just got a little salty. Uh, your father's in some passion that works him strongly." And Miranda says, "Yeah, I never saw him touched with anger so distempered." So Prospero says that uh, he is, well, first of all, in the last minute, I just want to note what Prospero says here. Our revels now are ended. These are our actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits, and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, the all which inherit it, shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. Maybe you noted that globe is also a double meaning referring to the Globe Theater. He's talking about life fading away, being ethereal, and he's also talking about theater and how it can be so real and then it can fade away so quickly. Okay, I'm out of time. I won't be able to cover the rest of the act, but